Versatile Mage. Chapter 146. Acting tough will get you hit by thunder. The spirit wolf relied on its erupting speed to escape the quicksand trap. Its sturdy body was like an arrow as it flew toward Luo Song. Shit. I originally did not want to expose too much. This brute animal and the kid were actually this tactless. I'll let them experience my intermediate magic. Luo Song realized that the little spell he had cast could not force the vicious spirit wolf to surrender. Thus, he quickly moved to the other side of the practice ground. Most likely due to Luo Song being in a hurry, his move this time put him in a more awkward situation, as he fell face first into the mud. When he got up, there was anger on his face as he began to arrange the stars within his nebula. The star atlas slowly emerged beneath his feet. Luo Song's eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule as he looked at the lowly spirit wolf. Since you dare to fight me, then I will teach you a lesson. I will turn your first summon into a corpse. What? Intermediate magic. The female examiner immediately stood up. Originally, they wanted to use this fight as an examination as well. This way, they would be able to determine the combat prowess of the two. However, the expressions on their faces immediately changed after they saw the completion of the star atlas. After Butler Lee saw this scene, he couldn't help but shake his head. He initially thought young Master Luo Song could rely on his earth magic to enter Pearl Institute, but in the end, he still had to reveal his true power. It's ice element. It's an intermediate ice magic. A snowflake-like white star atlas emerged beneath Luo Song's feet. The atmosphere in the training grounds felt as if it had been condensed into ice. The piercing cold was not something simple clothes could defend against. The ground was continuously being frozen, and the solid ice began to further spread into its surroundings. Ice lock. Luo Song's eyes carried ridicule. As he chanted the name of his spell, the frozen grounds in front of them suddenly split open. Icy white shackles burst out of the crack in the ice. They made a sound similar to rattling steel chains, quickly intertwining in front of Luo Song. The shackles were as thick as a bowl. Each of the floating, ice-cold shackles was capable of locking the spirit wolf to death under Luo Song's command. I can only say that you are unfortunate for meeting me, Luo Song. If your summoned beast survives this, then it will be because I was being lenient. There was not a hint of sympathy in Luo Song's eyes. Those who dared to fight with him had never had a good conclusion. Stop, stop, the examiner surnamed Li yelled out. However, Luo Song didn't stop. He raised his head and said, "There's no such thing as being lenient during a battle. I will teach this guy a lesson, and he will firmly remember it in the future." Examiner Li had already charged onto the grounds. Originally, Luo Song thought he came to stop him, but then realized he was running toward the boy in the black shirt. "Student Mo Fan, please calm down, please." At this moment, Dean Seo also stood up and gently spoke. Luo Song was completely dumbstruck. What's happening? Are they telling the retarded summoner to stop? Luo Song's objective was the spirit wolf, but when he turned around to look at Mo Fan, he was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Purple, a magnificent, bright purple star atlas had blossomed beneath Mo Fan's feet, with countless sparks curling around his body. Mo Fan's finger was pointed toward the sky, and his other hand was pointed at Luo Song's head. As Luo Song raised his head, he suddenly discovered a thundercloud was shrouding the sky. Lightning that looked as though it could descend at any moment was currently writhing inside the cloud. Luo Song felt as though a shower of cold water had been poured onto him. Cold sweat began to fall from every inch of his body. Heavens, this is the intermediate level lightning magic, Thunderbolt. Luo Song had nothing to guard against it. If the thunderbolt landed on him, he would be turned into mincemeat. "If you dare to make a move against my wolf, I will extinguish you, you god-forsaken pig," Mo Fan said to Luo Song icily. Shit, Mo Fan had promised Tang Yu to lay low, but who would have known he would meet such a person before he even entered university? So what if you use intermediate ice? All you did was force me to use my power. Mo Fan had always thought that he was already a big show-off. Who would have thought there'd be someone even bigger? He couldn't endure it. The entire practice ground immediately turned incredibly tense. The chins of the examiners nearly dropped to the table. First it was two primary magic students comparing their skills, and in the next second, there were two intermediate spells being drawn. Examiner Lee nearly passed out. He actually knew the true strength of this young master of his family. In his heart, he had also hoped the young master would lay low. Who would have thought he'd meet his demise so quickly? What seemed to be a normal summoner student had actually concealed the monstrous power of an intermediate mage. At this rate, he might as well beat his own face until it was swollen. How could Luo Song possibly dare to continue using his intermediate magic? He withdrew the ice shackles as his two legs began to feel weak. Seeing the fatty being more tactful, Mo Fan decided not to continue dealing with him. Mo Fan quickly calmed his lightning, and the clouds in the sky slowly dispersed, returning to a clear sunny day. Little wolf, return to me. Your performance was not bad at all. Mo Fan waved at his spirit wolf. The spirit wolf obediently ran back to him. Its eyes, which had once shown lofty indifference, now carried new respect for Mo Fan. The greatest honor for a summoned beast was when its owner was stronger than itself. All right, it's only an exam. There's no need to be angry. Mo Fan, although we don't understand why a lightning magician like you decided to cultivate the summoning element, we respect the choices of our students. From today on, you will be the newest summoner student of Pearl Institute. Dean Sio's face carried a smile. This fatty really was something. Being so young yet daring to be so impulsive. There were many gifted people in Pearl Institute. If he showed off here, he'd get hit by lightning sooner or later. Luo Song walked off the practice ground in disgrace. His face no longer held the belief that he was number one under the heavens. Little fatty, you'll also enter the ice school. You have learned an extremely important lesson at the start of school, and this will be very beneficial for you, Dean Sio told him. Luo Song's pride was shattered. Originally, he could have easily entered the Pearl Institute by showing his true ability. In the end, it seemed like they had accepted him out of pity. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 147. Entering the Unstable University, 1. Jiang Yunming was very satisfied with Mo Fan, indeed. In the past, he had worried about Mo Fan being in a difficult situation. If the summoning element was awakened as a primary magician's first element, especially for a rather poor student, it would seem more like a trash element. Nurturing that kind of student would require the school to cough up a lot of resources, making him of very little interest to the summoning school. If they were an intermediate magician, then it was different. An intermediate magician possessed a certain level of strength on their own, and with enough capital, they could spend more resources when summoning a creature. That way, they could nurture their summoned creature to become even stronger. Are you from Bo City? Dean Sio slowly took off his glasses as he gazed at Mo Fan. When he decided to accept this student, Dean Sio had already noted that the student's record was from Bo City. The entire nation knew of the calamity that had struck Bo City. As such, the whole country gave special treatment to those from there. During the Pearl Institute's enrollment this time, they had accepted one student from Bo City. Compared to students from across the country, he wasn't considered exceptionally outstanding. Yes, Mo Fan nodded. Not bad. I can't see the weak haze of destruction on your body. Dean Sio smiled slightly and didn't continue further. Mo Fan shrugged in reply and asked, "Can I live in the dorms?" "Yes, you can." Xingxia had already been accepted into Zhejiang Institute, and Mo Jiaxing was busy with work. Mo Fan had nowhere else to go, so it was better to stay in the school and focus on his studies. Mo Fan didn't have luggage or bags, so he immediately went to check in. After Mo Fan left, the director of the summoning element, Jiang Yunming, glanced at Dean Sio Bingson. "This student is quite interesting. Make sure you properly nurture him," Dean Sio said with a smile. Jiang Yunming didn't quite understand Dean Xiao's meaning, but before he could ask, Dean Xiao had already left with his hands behind his back. The dean's cultivation is extremely high. Perhaps he was able to see other things the student had hidden, the female examiner said as she looked at Dean Xiao's departing back. There are still more hidden things. I don't think that's possible. It's just that Dean Xiao is benevolent. He's more concerned about those who survived the destruction, the bald examiner replied. The start of the school term was on the 1st of September, an unusual day for starting school. Mo Fan had already been living in the dorm for roughly 2 months. He had a relatively good understanding of the entire Pearl Institute. The Pearl Institute was divided into 2 campuses. The Azure Pearl campus accommodated all first-year university students and all old students still at the primary level. The main Pearl campus was only for those who had stepped into the intermediate level. The main campus was naturally the true core of Pearl Institute. It gathered outstanding young magicians from all over the nation and was the place with the fiercest competition. The Azure campus was considered a bit more balanced. It gathered new students entering the Pearl Institute, as well as older students who had not yet broken through to the intermediate level. Mo Fan got up to brush his teeth and wash his face first thing in the morning. A relatively handsome man walked into the room. He had fashionably styled, curly long hair, a face like a fairy tale prince, and wore simple sportswear. Mo Fan looked at the first dorm mate to arrive while he still had foam all over his mouth. In his heart, he cursed, "Shit, this guy's almost as handsome as me. Oh, I thought I was the first one here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Zhao Manyan, I major in the light element," Zhao Manyan said with a warm smile, looking very friendly. "I'm Mo Fan. You should finish brushing your teeth. I'll go tidy up a few things. This dorm is a bit dirty." Zhao Manyan chose the bed opposite Mo Fan's, near the balcony. From the balcony, you could see the scenery outside, as well as the dorm filled with girls. After Mo Fan finished brushing his teeth, he began chatting with Zhao Manyan. "You're a summoner." Then what the senior sister said was correct. "We have a mixed element dorm," Zhao Manyan said helplessly. A dorm could accommodate 6 people. Normally, the school arranged students of the same element to stay together to make it easier for them to interact. However, not every element had students in multiples of 6, so some dorms ended up mixed. "Brother Mo Fan, I made an appointment to have a meal with the senior sister, so I'll take my leave first." Zhao Manyan swung his hair and elegantly left. Not too long after Zhao Manyan left, another 2 people came in. Whether they were shy or just arrogant, Mo Fan couldn't tell, but they didn't even greet him, the dorm's longest resident so far, and immediately began unpacking. In the afternoon, a tall and skinny guy with dyed red hair arrived. He clearly didn't try to hide the fact that he was a fire element student. He walked in as though he owned the place, sweeping his gaze around the room. "Whose bed is this?" the redhead asked, pointing at the one he wanted. "It's mine," Mo Fan replied, walking over from the balcony. "What element are you?" the redhead asked. "Summoning." Oh. The redhead stared blankly, clearly not expecting Mo Fan to be such an uncommon summoner. The 2 unpacking dormmates couldn't help but glance up at Mo Fan. "What about this bed? What element?" the redhead asked, pointing at Zhao Manyan's bed. "Light element," Mo Fan replied warily. The redhead nodded, strode over to Zhao Manyan's bed, and immediately dropped the big bag from his back onto it. He promptly threw Zhao Manyan's belongings aside, raising the corner of his mouth in a sneer. "Now it belongs to the fire element. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lu Yunzheng." Mo Fan stared at the things being tossed aside in disbelief. This Lu Yunzheng was arrogant. He had just stolen someone's bed outright. After dinner, Mo Fan received a text telling him to come to his classroom for a welcoming party for new students. When he arrived, he fantasized about meeting a group of beautiful, youthful, and heart-moving female classmates. Reality was cruel. The spacious classroom was empty. "Did I come too early?" Mo Fan muttered, bored as he waited. Time passed, and the meeting time arrived, but Mo Fan was still the only one there. He started to get anxious. Had he come to the wrong room? Just as he was about to leave, the summoning director, Jiang Yunming, walked in. Before Jiang Yunming could speak, hurried footsteps came from the hallway. 6 young men entered the room together. From their actions, it was clear they were from the same dorm. Jiang Yunming looked around at the 7 people in the classroom and said casually, "Everyone seems to have arrived just in time, I see." Boom! Mo Fan's jaw nearly hit the floor. Shit, everyone is here. There were only 7 new students for this element. Just enough to play out the Gould brothers. Chapter end. Versatile Mage. Chapter 148. Entering the Unstable University, 2. The summoning element can be called the element that stands out from the rest. The way we conduct our classes is also very different from the others. Basically, it's just having you guys raise your own beast. Other than a couple of important classes per week, you will be nurturing your own summoned beast. If you really are bored and have nothing to do, then you are allowed to go to other elements classes and sit through their lectures, Director Jiang Yunming said. Mo Fan opened his mouth in surprise, but then quickly nodded. This was indeed something he wanted. After all, he was a person who cultivated 4 different elements. He'd only be able to go through them all if he had a flexible schedule. Our institute has always had a special welcome program for the summoning element students. That will be the main thing that you will be facing next. The first 2 to show your exceptional performance will receive a Beast Refinement Blood, Jiang Yunming continued. After he mentioned the Beast Refinement Blood, the 6 summoners began to get excited, their eyes displaying a radiance of thirst. What is a Beast Refinement Blood? Mo Fan weakly asked the short and small boy next to him. You don't know. The short and small boy looked at Mo Fan, suspecting something. It was as though he was saying, "Bro, are you in the wrong element?" The Beast Refinement Blood allows your summoned creature to go through a marrow cleansing. Its strength will substantially increase. This makes it much faster nurturing the beasts compared to using your own magic energy to slowly help them along. Furthermore, it might allow a summoned beast at the peak of the minion level to evolve to the next level. Of course, this possibility is relatively low, Jiang Yunming explained. Mo Fan nodded to show that he understood now. Mr. Jiang, what is this welcome program that you mentioned? How do you distribute the Beast Refinement Blood? How about we all summon our beasts and compare whose is the strongest, and you'll give the blood to the winner? The boy who sat in the very middle with glossy hair asked eagerly. Hi Dafu, rules are not something that you can change. You will soon find out what the welcoming program is. This could possibly make you become the focal point of all of the new students, or make you the laughing stock of the school. Jiang Yunming displayed a rather mysterious smile. He didn't explain to everyone about just what this welcoming program was really about. Mo Fan was also very curious. Just what kind of special welcoming program did they make for the new summoning students? Mo Fan also wanted the Beast Refinement Blood. His own Spirit Wolf's prowess was actually quite strong, but that was far from enough for Mo Fan. Since there was a blood that could allow it to increase its strength, then he would definitely contend for it. The main reason for entering the school was to contend for resources. The majority of the magic resources were in the hands of major powers. If an impoverished magician like Mo Fan couldn't even fight for the resources in the school, then he would not be able to match up against others. Mo Fan returned to his dorm of fish and dragons, still puzzled about the welcoming program. He sat down on his chair, still pondering over this problem. At this moment, Zhao Mannion across from him suddenly laughed as he said, "Brother Mo Fan, I've heard you summoning element students are in big trouble." Big trouble? What do you mean? Mo Fan didn't understand him. I had heard something from the senior sister. It's the welcoming program, Zhao Mannion told him. I've been puzzled about that. Tell me about it. Mo Fan's eyes shone. He hadn't thought that Zhao Mannion would have such information. It's like this. In the previous seasons, the Pearl Institute would always conduct a beast combat competition during the welcoming meeting. All of the students and teachers will sit in the biggest battle arena of our Azure campus. They will place a monster inside of the cage on the battle arena, and all of the new students are allowed to walk into the cage to battle the creature inside. They'll be demonstrating their strength in front of all the students and teachers of the school, Zhao Mannion said as he filed his nails. Battle monsters. Mo Fan's eyes slowly began to shine. This institute sure is interesting. Not long after school starts, they'll allow others to fight before all students and teachers against a magical beast. That's quite provocative. What kind of magical beast, then? Mo Fan asked. Who said it was going to be a magical beast? Zhao Mannion raised his eyebrow as he continued. You'll fight against a beast, but they'll be using the summoned beasts of you summoners. Mo Fan's mouth instantly turned into an O shape. The other people in the room also looked over. The expressions on everyone's face is different. Shit, isn't the school messing with the summoners? Mo Fan immediately cursed. Ha ha ha, you can only blame yourselves for having the most unique element. I'm actually quite envious of you. You'll be able to display the strength of your summoned beast in front of the entire school, Zhao Mannion laughed. Mo Fan scowled miserably. He finally understood what Jiang Yunming had meant. The entire school was conducting a ceremony where new students battled beasts, and the beasts were their own summoned beasts. How fortunate that the school can think of this kind of tactic to examine the students. When he heard of battling beasts, Mo Fan was actually feeling very happy. It just so happened that he hadn't fought against a magical beast for a long time. However, who knew that it'd be this kind of setup? This was just irritating. It was simply crazy and ridiculous. With this kind of awful program, Mo Fan felt even more puzzled. Only the students with good combat prowess were able to enter the Pearl Institute. There were essentially no existences here that'd go weak on seeing a magical beast. Although his spirit wolf's combat prowess wasn't weak, it couldn't continuously fight against the new students. It seemed like the beast refinement blood wasn't obtained that easily. You'll have to hope for good luck. It's late, I'll go to sleep first. Zhao Mannion patted Mo Fan's shoulders with a gleeful not smile on his face before climbing into bed. Mo Fan's answering smile was all bitterness. Just when he was about to climb into bed, he suddenly realized something. He looked at Zhao Mannion, who was already in his bed, and suspiciously said, "What happened to that fire user? He's probably applying for a change of room, nothing important," Zhao Mannion replied indifferently. Mo Fan looked at the other people in the room and realized each of their expressions was strange. It looked like some of them were even scared of Zhao Mannion, and they didn't seem to want to talk about this matter. From the expression of the other three roommates, Mo Fan was able to guess that the matter wasn't as simple as Zhao Mannion made it out to be. This rather astonished him. It seemed like this Zhao Mannion wasn't all just looks. He had quite some ability. Mo Fan didn't continue asking. The biggest complication he had was a question that was giving him a headache. The other 6 summoners didn't seem to be easy to deal with. How could he win against these people and obtain the beast refinement blood? Furthermore, his own little wolf sure seemed pitiful at the moment. Chapter end. Versatile Mage. Chapter 149. The Warrior Wolf. In the dead of the night, Mo Fan's routine was the same as before. He climbed up to the roof of the building and began to meditate. Meditating for the summoning element was actually a form of feeding. This meditation turned his summoning Stardust's magic energy into food to feed his summoned beast. The summoned beast's strength would increase greatly through absorbing the magic energy from the magician's Stardust. The speed at which Mo Fan restored his magic energy was relatively fast. The little loach pendant doubling the speed of his cultivation also meant that Mo Fan's magic energy replenished at twice the speed of a normal person. Mo Fan had already reached the 3rd level of the summoning Stardust, so the magic energy he supplied to the spirit wolf was not small at all. In the past 2 months, Mo Fan had been using all of his magic energy to nurture the spirit wolf every day. However, he didn't notice any clear changes in the spirit wolf. Woo! While Mo Fan was meditating, a sudden howl was transmitted to him through the pact mark linking him and the wolf. It sounded a bit like a provocation. "This guy is battling again," Mo Fan murmured, feeling a little stunned. A summoned beast was unable to remain in the normal plane for long. They resided in the summoning plane. In that plane, there also existed many challenges they had to face. In what seemed to be an incomparably infertile land for them, each creature did its best to survive. Thus, they continuously had deadly fights with other creatures. Many times when Mo Fan summoned the spirit wolf, it would be riddled with scars. The past couple of times gave Mo Fan new insight into summoned beasts. In the past, Mo Fan thought the summoned creatures would always be in one place. As long as you called them, they would appear and use all their strength to fight. In reality, all of the creatures summoned from different planes had their own lifestyles. The agreement they had with magicians meant the magicians provided them with nourishment from their magic energy and a bit of strengthening. In return, they would appear and help the magicians battle when summoned. In the 2 months Mo Fan had been painstakingly cultivating, the spirit wolf had fought on its home plane more than 10 times. Essentially, it would go back to fighting other creatures again once it had recovered. To be honest, Mo Fan was actually very worried about the spirit wolf dying in the summoning plane. If that happened, Mo Fan would have to brand yet another spirit wolf, which took a lot of mental energy. Furthermore, the nourishment it had received for so long would be wasted. The battles within their plane were not something the magicians could help with. The only thing they could do was meditate and ensure they could provide the beasts with magic energy once their battles were over. The magic energy wasn't just food for their cultivation, it also allowed them to heal faster. After a while, the spirit wolf's battle finally came to an end. The mental mark had become quite weak. From this, Mo Fan could tell that the spirit wolf was badly hurt. "Shit, don't die on me." Mo Fan was scared. "I've never seen such a warlike summoned beast. Since you're being taken care of by a magician, why can't you just go find a safe place and be a good wolf?" Mo Fan didn't dare ponder too much over it. He hastily used the pact mark to transfer magic energy to the spirit wolf, hoping the energy would drag it back from the edge of death. The stardust that was filled with magic energy the color of moonlight quickly darkened. What relieved Mo Fan was that the spirit wolf's aura seemed to have recovered a little. "I'll summon you here and bring you to the school. Infirmary. There'll be healing element teachers who will help you heal up," Mo Fan sent to the spirit wolf. Mo Fan was now certain it had received a serious wound. If it didn't get treated in time, it would be in critical condition. When Mo Fan was about to interlink all 7 summoning stars, the spirit wolf transferred a rebuff to him through the mental link. "My wolf brother, if you just heal yourself, who knows how long that will take. If you meet another creature hostile to you at this time, you will definitely die," Mo Fan sent anxiously. Not long after, the spirit wolf replied, saying it was hiding in a very safe place. Mo Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How did he find such a stubborn spirit wolf? It was on the verge of death, yet it was still sitting there waiting for its wounds to self-heal. Mo Fan was worried about the spirit wolf the entire night. The spirit wolf's aura finally stabilized as the sun rose. Mo Fan sent all of his magic energy that he had just regained to the spirit wolf. The spirit wolf was already in a deep sleep. Perhaps it wouldn't wake up for a long time. "As long as it's alive," Mo Fan sighed. "It seems like there's no hope to obtain the beast refinement blood. It won't be able to battle in this state." The wound the spirit wolf received this time was far too heavy. It would take a long time to recover. In this case, Mo Fan could only give up on the beast battle competition. The day of the welcoming meet was finally here. It was certainly the most majestic event of the Azure campus. The older students who had been in the school for a while would definitely not miss out on this chance to see the new students embarrass themselves. Many of the new students still believed their strength stood out from the rest and were waiting for a good opportunity to leap forward and become the focal point of the entire school. Perhaps every single one of the students here was the best of the best from their respective areas. However, in Pearl Institute, they were easily submerged in piles of magic geniuses. Did you guys ask around about the summoned beasts of the 7 summoner students? Inside the cafeteria, 4 to 5 boys sat together, looking as though they were secretly discussing a major issue of some other country. I've asked around. The guy called Hai Dafu has a white armor battle cocoon. Its combat prowess won't lose out against an adult magical beast. Zheng Bingshao has a rock demon soldier. It's a summoned beast with relatively strong defense and power. And then, there's a bone corpse demon. A guy who looked very excited replied quickly. Bone corpse demon. That kind of thing isn't something you should provoke. One guy nearly yelled. If you don't want to provoke it, then don't. Either way, there are still some who aren't too hard to deal with, the boy leading the discussion said. And there's one more summoner student called Mo Fan. I have yet to hear about what kind of summoned beast he has. It just happens that he's not in the same room as the other 6, the excited guy said. That doesn't matter. We'll just find something easy. An individual or team that defeats one of the summoned beasts will receive a great reward from the school. Yeah. Why else would we go through so much trouble to get intel on the enemy? The reward is not something I, Li Junwei, care about. There's actually that lightning kid who dared to contest against me about my Qin Xiaomian. Oh. Li Junwei, you just happen to like this kind of gentle and obedient girl. I'm not the same as you. I like Mu Nujiao. Shit. Who doesn't like Mu Nujiao? Do you know how many people got a nosebleed from seeing her on the first day? Yeah. She is a supreme goddess. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 150. Supreme Magic. The most heated topic of the day was naturally the beast combat competition in the afternoon. This event had been the most important thing happening at Pearl Institute's Azure campus during the past couple of years. There were banners with summoned beasts displayed on them at all corners of the campus. Furthermore, there were rumors that large posters of those who had delivered incredible performances in past competitions were still hanging on the walls at the entrances to the commons. That sounded really cool. Mo Fan started to sort out his appearance and clothes first thing in the morning. He had to look his best for the lovely ladies. Looking at it from a different angle, the summoner students were also the focal point of the competition this time. His spirit wolf was still sleeping, so Mo Fan figured he had nothing to do here. Originally, this was a chance for him to display his talents and good looks to the entire school, but now he could only show off his incredible handsomeness. Brother Mo Fan, since we're in the same dorm, you should tell me a bit about your summoned beast. Give us something to work with. His dorm mate Zhang Pinggu asked with his eyebrows raised. There's nothing to hide. It's a spirit wolf, Mo Fan replied directly. Beside him was Zhao Manyan, who was also fixing himself up. He turned around and commented in surprise, a spirit wolf is the favorite beast for primary summoners. Furthermore, that thing's combat prowess is even slightly higher than a minion-level magical beast. So it's a spirit wolf. I reckon we wouldn't be able to win against you even if the entire dorm grouped up, Zhang Pinggu said with a bitter smile. Hee, don't use your standard to determine everyone's prowess. Su Long, the last one to arrive in the dorm, said with a touch of ridicule. There were a total of 5 people in Mo Fan's dorm, and the one he got along with best was Zhao Manyan, who had the bed opposite him. Zhang Pinggu was a pretty shameless guy. He didn't argue with anyone and was able to banter with anyone. Su Long was the last person to arrive. This guy seemed full of himself. In the beginning, when Zhang Pinggu tried to welcome him, he was given a cold stare in reply, scaring him away. The other 2, Mo Fan still wasn't able to remember the names. Either way, they'd been doing their own thing since the first day of school. They were relatively quiet and didn't try to talk to others. Only Zhang Pinggu was relatively familiar with those 2, Mo Fan and Zhao Manyan just acted as though they didn't exist. Good luck. After Zhao Manyan tidied himself up, he patted Mo Fan on the shoulder before leaving. Mo Fan couldn't do anything else other than silently await the tragic welcoming competition. After arriving at the Azure Battlegrounds, Mo Fan and his dorm mates parted ways. The summoner students were the main characters of the competition this time, so it was natural that they had to go to the back of the stage to prepare. The Azure Battlegrounds was a huge construction. Inside was a space slightly bigger than a soccer field. Normally, this place was a grand arena, but today it had been turned into a colossal cage, called the Beast Battle Cage. Surrounding the Beast Battle Cage were mat seats in the form of ladders. The mats were placed neatly and closely together. Mo Fan estimated that accommodating 10,000 people wouldn't be a problem at all. Perhaps only Pearl Institute was capable of constructing such a battleground of this size. Students came into the building in succession, the lines forming right after lunch. The tide of people had already started disrupting the grand atmosphere of the building. After 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the entire building was filled with students, faces brimming with vitality and pairs of beautiful white thighs full of youth. Other than a concert or a school event, where else could you see such a large group of young girls coming in? Shit, there's a lot of people. I'm feeling nervous, Yang Yi said at the back of the stage, his face filled with worry. As he looked into the arena, there were countless faces he hadn't seen before, and that was only part of the arena. Seeing this made his heart race. When he was in the middle of the arena, with numerous pairs of eyes looking at him from all directions, it would definitely make him so nervous that he might forget what element he studied. That's not a problem. I like this kind of situation. Today in the common area, cafeteria, and even on the way to the arena, I heard people talking about our summoned beasts. There were even a couple of them saying how they'd casually annihilate our summoned beasts. I laughed. My white armor battle cocoon will let them know the definition of complete annihilation. Hai Dafu was definitely excited. Zheng Bingshao was standing at the side, as calm as always. The other 3 people didn't have much of a reaction. However, from the occasional glow of confidence in their eyes, Mo Fan could tell that they were actually extremely excited about this beast battle competition. Pearl Institute chose the most elite magicians from competitions across the nation. If they could distinguish themselves in this kind of place, wouldn't that be enough to prove their worth? Who didn't want to be known for their mettle? Who didn't want to bask in glory during university? As the ceremony began, the first person to make a speech in front of 10,000 people was naturally Dean Xiao. Before I make my speech, I want to confirm one thing with everyone. If you aspire to be a magician who wants to be revered in society, with a high salary, and live a high-quality life, then as the person in charge, I am obligated to tell you that you've come to the wrong place. The magicians who graduate from Pearl Institute are bound to have the strength to change the world. They're heroes who protect humanity. If any of you pursue the former, then we will give you the certificate of Pearl Institute and a letter of recommendation right now, and you will be able to live that kind of lifestyle. Please don't take up the precious spots, wealth, and reputation of our Pearl Institute. We don't lack those things. We only lack an eternal heart that pursues the supreme magic. Mo Fan was standing at the back of the stage, not too far from where Dean Xiao was making his speech. He carefully observed everyone's reactions to Dean Xiao's words. Every single one of them had something flickering in their eyes. Those words were quite domineering. In a time where everyone was pursuing reputation and wealth, the dean told them that receiving a certificate from Pearl Institute would allow them to obtain all of that. However, the magic students who had been accepted into this kind of nationally reputable magic institution, did they truly only want those things? In front of the supreme magic, all fame and profit were nothing but floating clouds. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.